Hey everyone, I'm here to talk about an interesting feature within Cursor that you could literally tweak to make it like a complete learning tool. So, as all of us know, we use Cursor day to day for our vibe coding purposes and then for generating specs or generating requirements and also planning it out, creating tasks and all of it. But imagine that you have a large code base and then which is all legacy, and then a new member joins a team, so it takes time for him to even get familiar with where to start with, and he needs an overview, and he also needs to understand the code, navigate it through to before he becomes productive. So, of course, you can use the default chat menu within the cursor, like what we see here, and then he could like basically ask about the code, the questions he has, and all of it. But he has to come up with all these different aspects that he's going to think about. So, to simplify all of that, imagine that a cursor rule. So, what I've created here is a cursor rule that actually orchestrates the complete learning experience for you. It brings in a lot of options. For instance, it divides the entire code base into different lessons that goes through step by step process of making you familiar with the code. So think of this as like similar to a book where you go through a table of contents, you have the index organized, and then you study through it. So that makes your learning kind of experience very seamless. So, and also the other options that I've added as part of that steering rules is like providing you with visual diagrams, or if they are like not part of the code base, like architecture diagram, sequence, use cases, and all of it. And apart from that, one powerful feature is the speak feature within what I have like integrated with. So within my cursor, I also have an MCP server that has been integrated with Google TTS, so that enables you to convert the text into speech. But apart from that, what I've integrated within the steering rules takes the complete overview of your project and then converts that into a kind of like a conversation way, like how imagine that a senior developer describes the entire project to you. So how will that experience look like? So it brings the same kind of an experience to the table, which makes your learning much more straightforward. So without getting delayed, let's actually get started with a simple demo. So here you see the steering rule that I talked about, the cursor rules that I had shown. So let me type in the command called teach. Let's see how it is going to organize this project. So this is a sample project that is a Gen AI application that is actually like kind of like you can imagine that as a medical chatbot being used in the hospitals. So let's actually type in the teach command. Let's see what the cursor has to say when it goes through the rules and then tries to organize it. So okay. So as expected, it creates you a table of contents. And then one of the interesting thing, what I have configured as part of the cursor rules, it gives you a bite-size overview. So this is exactly what you need to understand looking at 10,000 feet level, or what is exactly the project is doing, what are all the different components, the architecture at a glance, the key files, and all of the workflow and everything. So, and these are the stuff that I had configured as part of the cursor rules that I'm talking about, so that organizes or orchestrates your learning to a much simpler way. So you can go through each of these sections, like module after module, like what I described about. So we have a total of, let's go up. We have a total of about 6 modules that it has split into. So you can learn each of these modules one after another, doing through the continue menu. You can also stop after each module and then test your understanding by using a quiz, and similarly, you can go through lessons by lessons for the entire module. So the other interesting thing is like patterns. So when you look at the code, the most importantly, you don't want to miss out on the different patterns that all these different engineers within the team have built it. And you can use Cursor through the steering rules that will enable you to learn these patterns and understand what they are and how important they are to the project. So let's type in patterns. Okay, here you go. So you see the different architectural patterns here. So we see retrieval augmented generation, chain of responsibility pattern, a factory pattern, an adapter pattern, and a template pattern, singleton pattern, and strategy and all of it. So this gives you overall understanding of the different patterns within the project. So now, without getting delayed, let's check on the other aspect where I wanted to actually show you the power of like audio-based overviews. So this is the speak capability. So let's say speak with storytelling. Always a storytelling is one thing that actually sticks to your heart, be it like a meeting, be it like a all hands, or be it any kind of like an overview that stands out in terms of business. Bringing the same experience to your ID is what I try to implement here. So let's do a speak with storytelling and let's see how um, we are going to have this entire project narrated to us. My MCP server is being used here. Let me click on allow.
Welcome. Let me walk you through the architectural patterns in your medical chatbot. Think of this as a conversation between a seasoned architect and an engineer just learning the ropes. So here's the thing about your project. At its core, you're using something called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. Now, why does that matter? Imagine asking ChatGPT about rare medical conditions without any context. It'll make things up. That's a hallucination. But your system? It's smarter. It retrieves relevant medical knowledge from a database first, then uses that context to generate accurate answers. That's the RAG pattern, and it's brilliant. Now, let's talk about how this all flows together. Your system uses what we call a chain of responsibility pattern. Think of it like an assembly line. A question comes in, gets converted to a vector, searches Pinecone for the top 3 matching documents, combines them with your system prompt, and sends everything to GPT. Each step is responsible for one thing and passes its output to the next. Clean, elegant. Here's where it gets interesting. You're using factory patterns all over the place. When you call Pinecone vector store dot from documents, you're not manually creating vectors and upsetting them. You're asking a factory to handle all that complexity and give you back a ready-to-use object. That's abstraction done right. And then there's the adapter pattern. Hugging Face, Pinecone, and OpenAI all speak different languages. But LangChain, it has adapters that make them all speak the same dialect. This is why your code is so clean. You're not wrestling with 3 different APIs. You're just using 3 adapters. Let me tell you about something that saves you a ton of performance headaches. Singleton pattern. When your Flask app starts, it downloads the embeddings model once, not once per request. Thousands of users, one embeddings object. That's the power of singletons when used correctly. Here's a pro tip that took me years to appreciate. Your retriever uses what we call the strategy pattern. Right now it's set to similarity search with cosine distance, returning the top 3 results. But you could swap that to maximal marginal relevance to reduce redundancy, or change the K value, all without touching your core RAG chain. That's flexibility. Now, I really want to emphasize this one. Dependency injection. Instead of your chain hardcoding which LLM to use or which retriever to use, these are passed in as parameters. This is why your code is testable. Want to test with a mock LLM? Just inject it. This is the mark of well-architected systems. Your prompts use the template pattern. You define the structure once, with placeholders for context and input. Then at runtime, you fill in those variables. Simple but powerful. And finally, your entire application follows the model view controller pattern. Your Flask groups are controllers. Your helper functions and prompt logic are the model. Your HTML templates are the view. Separation of concerns. That's how you build systems that don't turn into spaghetti code. Here's the beautiful part. Because you've used these patterns, swapping components is trivial. Want to use Claude instead of OpenAI? Change one object. Want a different vector database? Change the retriever. This is what good architecture looks like. That's your system. Patterns stacked thoughtfully, not over-engineered, not under-engineered, just right.
Yeah. So you have seen that how the overview is like much detailed and how it gives you the entire kind of like an understanding. So this is exactly what we can build in. So even like say if there are different modules within the code that the developer wants to understand or he is stuck. So this kind of a feature plays a major role. So let me show you the settings where I have like configured this MCP server. So you can see that within my tools and MCP, this is the MCP server that does the voice to like text to voice, if you see here. So these are the settings. So and yeah. So, and this is one last thing that I would like to conclude here is I've just scratched the surface. So the using this kind of like vibe coding IDEs like for learning purposes is going to just open up a new can of worms for us, and that is going to be new set of opportunities that we are going to like uncover, and that will help us in the longer run. So that is what I wanted to say. So thank you, everyone.